In Edmonton news, the race for mayor of Edmonton begins as Mayor John Iveson announced that he will not be seeking a re-election. Mayor Iveson has been instrumental in putting social programs in place, such as end poverty and homelessness in Edmonton. What will you remember Mayor Iveson for? And who will you recommend to run for Mayor of Edmonton on October 18, 2021? Will it be Councillor Andrew Knack, perhaps MP Amajit Soy, or maybe Councillor Mike Nicol? You decide. Political consultant Najib Jutt shares his view on the way forward for the city of Edmonton without Mayor John Iveson.
I'm Najib Jutt. I'm a political strategist with Statecraft Partners. Well, it didn't come to much surprise to me that Mayor Iveson isn't running again. Generally, mayors don't do themselves any favors when they go into a third term or fourth term. I think that, given the pandemic and the mandate and giant undertaking that a new council, a new mayor in 2021 are going to have in terms of economic recovery and job creation and rebuilding a city after a pandemic. I don't think anyone is jumping to have that job, and I think some brave souls will put their names forward. But I'm not surprised that Mayor Iveson has decided to pack it up. But it'll be interesting to see if he jumps to another level of politics or if he goes private sector. I mean, he's basically, I think his whole career has been in politics, including student politics, 2 terms on council, 2 terms as mayor. That's a pretty good public portfolio. I think he's handled himself well. He's a city builder, LRT, rec centers, arena, bridges. He's done a very admirable job of building the city, and maybe he just feels it's time to move on to other things, whether that's another level of politics or private sector, or just spending some time with his family. I don't think any of us should begrudge him that. Well, it's interesting, right? I mean, the nice thing is, I think that we already have potentially 3 open seats on council now that Iveson, Walters, and I've said that they aren't going to run again. And Mike Nicol is probably going to run for mayor, so that leaves a council seat open. Right, so that's 3, and I think that we might see some retirements. There's some councillors that have been there for 3-4 terms and probably considering retiring. And I think maybe a couple more councillors might run for mayor. Andrew Knack has expressed interest. Other names that are batted around: Tim Cartmel, Sarah Hamilton, Aaron Paquette. Who knows? It's speculation at this point. But if a couple of them also step forward mayor, that opens up a couple more seats. So it's interesting, and I truly hope. I think it's a long time coming that we have, at least half of the seats turn over, and we get some fresh faces and fresh voices and ideas on councils. I think that, given that post-pandemic recovery, 2021 and onwards is going to be a big part of their mandate. We need some fresh blood. I don't think it's any secret that this council has probably been one of the most divisive ever. They barely pass any major decisions, without it being, very close, 7-6, 6-7, so 8-5, that kind of stuff. So, it's been a very divisive council. I think they've struggled to be on the same page, and I just think that, given the economic circumstances, that it'd be great to have some fresh new faces and ideas, and I think it's sorely needed, and I'm looking forward to seeing who steps forward, not only for mayor, but for council seats as well. Well, I think we sorely need more representation from communities of color. We only have 2 councillors who we could consider coming from those communities, and representation from those communities. I mean, our council is very non-diverse, so to speak, and could use some right-sizing in terms of having gender parity, and also having some representation from communities of color as well. So I think that I'm definitely personally really encouraging candidates of color to step forward and run, and offering my services and advice to them. But I really think that those voices are needed, and I think that as Edmonton and Alberta continues to change demographically, as we approach 30, 35, probably 40% being a non-white population, I think representations for those communities are really important. Those voices are really important, and bringing in the concerns and needs of those communities is also something that we would sorely need to pay attention to. Well, I mean, for every candidate, and it's not just candidates of color, the considerations are the same. First you need your family support, right? Because it's a big sacrifice in terms of time that you'll be able to spend with family. You need your spousal support. You need to know that the family financials are in good standing so that you can, take a leave of absence from your work or put your work aside if you're self-employed and pursue a year-long campaign, to really take a run at city council or definitely the mayoral seat. I mean, you need to have a year of runway. It's very difficult to be successful, launching a campaign 4 or 5 months before election day. And I know because, I've done it with other candidates. So I think that the earlier you can make that decision and start organizing yourself, the better. And it's tough these days. Again, the pandemic has affected everyone and their ability to pursue something like this that they might be interested in politics. I mean, even already a couple of people that I knew were considering and would have been great for city politics have decided not to run because of these circumstances. They're either, just their businesses are just starting to recover, or they're just not in the financial situation that they can do a political run. So I think those things are important. And then after that, you have to think about where you're going to get your support from. I mean, it's not yet been announced what the cap on spend will be for councillors and mayor campaigns, but there probably will be a cap. But in the past, you had to spend close to $100,000 to win. I think 8 out of 13 of the councillors that won last time spent over $80,000 or $70,000 or $80,000. So that's a lot of money to raise to run. And where's that money going to come from, and how are you going to collect it? And then also, what kind of support you need on your campaign. Campaigns are huge undertakings. They need a lot of labor. They need a lot of volunteer hours. And it's, basically right now, if you started your campaign, you're probably looking at spending, at least, 50 to 75% of your own time as the candidate working on your campaign. But quickly, January 1 is the official date when all campaigns kick off. Quickly, it's going to be, more than a full-time job. And it's going to take you away from family and other initiatives and other duties that you might have. So it's a big decision to make. A little bit of the interest in the mayoral campaign is deflated because I think some people were really looking forward to the battle between Nicol and Iveson. They have a long history as being adversaries. So that's kind of been taken away now. But I still think that a lot of people will be very interested to see how this mayoral campaign and the civic election shapes up for 2021. Now that there is no incumbent for mayor, it makes it much more interesting. A lot more players will enter the field. A lot of the names that we see, Amarjeet Sohi, previous councillor and federal MP and minister, might enter the race. That would make it really interesting. And then, I'm looking forward to seeing what new faces emerge. So I think that part was going to be really interesting. And I think just in general, if we have, 4, 5, 6 open council seats, that again makes it very interesting because then you have some battles that have a lot of good candidates. And I always think that's, what makes municipal politics really interesting because it's so accessible to almost everyone in terms of being able to enter and run an effective campaign. So I think, overall, I think because of all those dynamics, no incumbent running for mayor, the open council seats, the challenge of running a campaign during pandemic restrictions and protocol, all these things I think are going to be very interesting for campaigns and campaigners like myself. But I also think that, people have a heightened, I think, awareness of how politics affect their lives. I think especially, with the things that have happened around Alberta and provincial politics, I think people now who previously may not have been as engaged and understanding how politics affect our everyday life are now, because of the pandemic, more interested and wanting to get more involved in politics and wanting to truly make a difference. And I think that's hopefully will translate into a very interesting slate of candidates for city council.